In 1984, Aerosmith was $500,000 in debt and playing clubs for $2,000 a night. 9 years later, they were touring stadiums for $350,000 per show and commanding a $30 million record deal. This isn't just another story about a band getting clean. It's about the business revolution that transformed a worthless rock group into a $500 million empire. Perhaps the most surprising part? By 1999, a Harvard Business School study would find that Aerosmith's revolutionary business model had been adopted by over 70% of established acts, generating an additional $4.3 billion in industry revenue that wouldn't have existed otherwise. This wasn't just a band comeback story. It was a complete reimagining of how the music business could operate. The secret? A manager who rewrote music industry rules, pioneered new revenue models, and turned aging rock stars into a global brand. While other bands from the 70s faded away, Aerosmith built a business machine that generated more money in the 1990s than they made in their first 20 years combined. By 1975, Aerosmith had built a formidable business empire. Toys in the Attic was generating $100,000 monthly from just one song. Concert venues increased from 2,000-seat theaters to 80,000-capacity stadiums. Merchandising brought in $35 million in 1978 alone. Even their opening acts, from AC/DC to Cheap Trick, were chosen to maximize ticket sales rather than friendship, showing their shrewd business mindset. But success masked a crumbling business foundation. While revenue soared, the band's expenses grew exponentially. The recording budget for Draw the Line hit $1 million, more than double their first 3 albums combined. Lifestyle expenses spiraled out of control. Joe Perry's hotel bills alone topped $80,000 for a single tour, while their tour insurance premiums tripled after multiple canceled shows. Their management team made critical mistakes. Their original Columbia deal paid just 12 cents per album, less than half the industry standard. Merchandise deals gave 70% to vendors and another 20% to management before the band saw a penny. By 1979, they were selling out stadiums, but taking home less than opening acts with better contracts. When Joe Perry left in 1979, the impact was devastating. Concert attendance dropped 80% in 6 months. Radio stations stopped playing their songs. Their 1979 album, Night in the Ruts, sold just 1.5 million copies, a quarter of their previous releases. The band's remaining business relationships began to collapse. Merchandisers canceled contracts. Promoters refused to book shows without massive deposits. Their touring operation, which once filled 8 trucks, was reduced to a single van. By 1984, the numbers told a stark story. Venue sizes shrank from stadiums to 2,000-seat clubs. Performance fees dropped from $75,000 to $2,000 per night. The band that once generated $100,000 monthly from a single song was now $500,000 in debt. Rock's greatest money machine had run completely dry. Yet someone was about to make an offer that would not only save the band, but completely rewrite the rules of the music business. In 1984, as record labels dismissed Aerosmith as worthless, Tim Collins saw something they missed: a band with a $100 million catalog sitting dormant at Columbia Records. His pitch to manage them wasn't about music. It was about transforming how rock bands made money. "The music industry keeps treating you like you're just 5 guys with guitars," Collins reportedly told them in their first meeting. "But you're sitting on a global brand that could be generating revenue from 20 different streams." Collins' first move shocked the industry. Instead of shopping for a record deal, he sent the band on a back-in-the-saddle tour of small clubs. Most managers would have considered this career suicide, forcing a once-stadium-filling band to play venues a tenth the size. But Collins understood leverage. The tour generated $3 million in 1984, proving Aerosmith could still draw crowds. More importantly, It showed promoters the band could complete shows reliably, rebuilding their damaged reputation. Other managers kept telling me I was crazy, Collins later told Billboard in 1991. But I needed to prove they could show up and perform before any label would touch them. To protect the band's assets, Collins created a revolutionary business structure. While most bands operated as single entities, he split Aerosmith into separate corporations for touring, merchandising, and publishing. This protected each revenue stream from the other's liabilities. When their Done with Mirrors album struggled commercially, selling just 150,000 copies compared to the 1 to 2 million of their peak albums, the tour company remained profitable, keeping the band solvent. The restructuring went deeper than corporate organization. Collins dismantled the old music industry model of managers taking 20% of gross revenue. His new contracts gave him 15% of net profits instead. This aligned everyone's interests. The more efficiently the band operated, the more everyone made. New merchandising deals eliminated middlemen, increasing the band's share from 10% to 60%. Publishing rights were consolidated, ensuring the band profited from every use of their catalog. Each business decision prioritized long-term value over quick profits. Industry veterans thought Collins was crazy when he pitched a collaboration with Run DMC in 1986. Rock radio stations threatened to boycott Aerosmith. Major retailers warned they wouldn't stock it. But Collins saw beyond traditional rock markets. "I remember sitting in a room with Geffen executives who told us we were committing career suicide," Tyler recalled in a 1999 interview. Tim just smiled and said, "Sometimes you need to burn the boats to discover new lands." The Walk This Way remix cost just $8,000 to record, but generated over $10 million in revenue through multiple streams, album sales, radio play, and heavy MTV rotation. More importantly, it showcased Aerosmith to a new generation of fans who'd never bought their records. This strategic transformation laid the groundwork for Aerosmith's resurrection. Collins' business model became the template for how aging rock bands could reinvent themselves. By 1987, Aerosmith wasn't just a band. It was a diversified entertainment company, generating revenue from tours, merchandise, publishing, and licensing. Even their critics had to admit, Collins hadn't just saved Aerosmith, he'd revolutionized the rock business model. As Collins implemented his business model, a fledgling cable channel was gaining momentum, one that would soon transform Aerosmith's reinvention strategy into something far more valuable than anyone in the industry could have predicted. The band that had once dominated radio was about to find an entirely new medium that would make their 70s success look quaint by comparison. When MTV launched in 1981, most rock stars saw it as beneath them. Pink Floyd called it radio with pictures. The Rolling Stones refused to make videos. But Aerosmith, desperate and hungry for a comeback, saw something different, a chance to reinvent themselves for a new audience. The gamble started with their image. Gone were the 70s scarves and bell-bottoms. The band spent $50,000 on new wardrobes and image consultants, money they didn't have. I remember looking at these new clothes and thinking, "I look like a effing peacock," Joe Perry later told Rolling Stone in 1993. But we were dead broke with nothing to lose. When you're drowning, you don't argue about the color of the life preserver. Their first major video, Let the Music Do the Talking, flopped. MTV played it once and passed. The band was crushed, but Collins saw the problem. They were trying to remake their old image instead of creating something new. That night, I found Tyler crying in the hallway of some shitty hotel, Collins revealed in his 2005 memoir. He looked up at me and said, 20 million people used to scream my name, and now MTV won't even play our video. That's when I knew we had to completely rethink everything. For their next video, Dude Looks Like a Lady, they embraced a completely different approach. The budget hit $150,000, 3 times what most bands spent on videos, and equivalent to what the entire band earned from 6 months of club shows in 1984. The risk paid off. MTV put it in heavy rotation, and suddenly, Aerosmith was reaching teenagers who'd never heard Dream On. The real breakthrough came from an unexpected source. When Run DMC wanted to remake Walk This Way, many in Aerosmith's camp thought it would destroy their rock credibility. My exact words were, "Over my dead fucking body," Tyler admitted to VH1 in 1999. "I thought they were going to destroy our song. Shows what I knew about the future of music." The video concept seemed crazy, literally breaking down a wall between rock and rap. But that wall-breaking scene became iconic, earning MTV's Video of the Year and sending both versions of the song back onto the charts. More importantly, it showed other artists how to use MTV to reinvent themselves. Collins and the band then revolutionized how rock acts approached music videos. Instead of just promotional tools, they treated them as investments. Each video from Permanent Vacation featured emerging actors, storylines, and cinema-quality production. Angel cost $250,000 to make, but helped drive the single to number 3 on the charts, their first top 5 hit since 1976. Love in an Elevator took 6 days to shoot and required building a custom set at a cost of $423,000, more than double the average video budget for established artists in 1989. The video budget for Pump exceeded $1.2 million, surpassing what most bands spent recording their albums and 400% higher than the industry average for multi-video budgets. The strategy transformed their business model. Before MTV, Aerosmith earned 80% of their income from album sales and touring. By 1989, their revenue streams looked completely different. MTV exposure drove merchandise sales up 120%, from $4.5 million in 1986 to $9.9 million in 1989. Their videos played so often that performance royalties from MTV alone generated $2 million annually. Concert tickets sold faster because younger fans discovered them through MTV. The average age of concert attendees dropped from 30 to 19 in just 3 years. But perhaps most valuable was how MTV solved their biggest business challenge, reaching new audiences without alienating old fans. Older fans still heard the same hard rock sound on albums, while MTV viewers saw a modern band playing the same songs. "We weren't changing who we were," Steven Tyler explained to Billboard in 1990. "We were just letting more people see us. The old fans listened to the albums, the kids watched MTV, but they were all buying tickets to the same damn show." Their MTV success changed industry practices. Labels started requiring video budgets in recording contracts. Older bands hired image consultants. Even MTV changed its approach, realizing aging rock acts could attract young viewers if packaged correctly. What Aerosmith did went beyond music videos, former MTV executive Abby Konowich said in 2003. They created a blueprint for career resurrection that we still reference today. But as revolutionary as their MTV strategy was, it would pale in comparison to the business transformation they were about to engineer behind the scenes. Record companies had a simple formula for aging rock bands in the 1980s: squeeze out a few more albums, milk the nostalgia circuit, then discard them. But Aerosmith was about to blow up that playbook entirely. Their first move shocked the industry. Instead of signing a traditional record deal, they hired entertainment lawyers who usually represented movie studios. The message was clear. They weren't just a band anymore. They were a multimedia business. When Sony offered them a standard $15 million contract in 1991, Aerosmith countered with something unprecedented. They wanted ownership stakes in everything they touched. The resulting $30 million deal rewrote industry rules. Unlike traditional contracts that gave labels control over everything, Aerosmith maintained creative authority over their music videos, album artwork, and tour merchandise. They negotiated higher royalty rates by agreeing to share marketing costs. Most importantly, they secured the rights to license their brand beyond music, something labels typically kept for themselves. But the real innovation came in maximizing their business structure. Each division developed its own revenue streams. The touring company licensed their stage designs and production expertise. The merchandise division created dedicated product lines beyond tour shirts. The publishing corporation aggressively pursued soundtrack and commercial licensing deals. "We turned every division into its own business," their accountant explained. A single concert now generated income from 20 different sources. The band even rethought how they made money from concerts. Instead of relying on ticket sales alone, they turned every show into a multimedia event. They sold broadcasting rights to their concerts. They licensed their stage designs to other bands. They even charged companies to use their load-in and load-out procedures. This approach transformed their income. In 1984, album sales accounted for 80% of their revenue. By 1993, their empire included theme park attractions, video games, and licensed merchandise ranging from t-shirts to tequila. The band that once earned pennies per album was now making millions from ventures that had nothing to do with music. Their greatest coup came from an unlikely source: Disney. When the entertainment giant wanted to build a roller coaster featuring classic rock music, most bands scoffed at the idea. But Aerosmith saw the bigger picture. The rock and roller coaster deal included not just licensing fees, but also merchandise rights and ongoing royalties. More importantly, it put their music in front of 50 million theme park visitors annually. To put their success in perspective, in 1993, Aerosmith generated more annual revenue than Pink Floyd, the Rolling Stones, and the Eagles combined. Their merchandise sales alone topped what most platinum-selling artists earned in total. While other veteran bands fought over shrinking album royalties, Aerosmith created entirely new revenue streams. Not every experiment worked. Their branded clothing line flopped. Their attempt at a record label failed. But each failure taught them something valuable about brand extension. "We stopped thinking like a rock band," Steven Tyler said, "and started thinking like a business." By 1995, Aerosmith had built what Billboard called the most diversified business portfolio in rock history. Young bands studied their contracts. Managers copied their corporate structure. Even their former critics had to admit, the band had transformed from rock stars into savvy entrepreneurs. The music industry's old rules were gone, replaced by the business model Aerosmith invented. By 1993, Aerosmith wasn't just a band. They were a business empire generating $100 million annually. Get a Grip sold 20 million copies worldwide. Their tours grossed $40 million per year, and their merchandise sales topped $30 million. By 1995, their total empire value hit $850 million, more than U2, Bon Jovi, and Guns N' Roses combined. They had built a self-sustaining entertainment corporation that generated profits whether they recorded or not. But success brought unexpected challenges. The biggest irony was that after fighting for decades to control our business, we became slaves to it, Joe Perry confessed to Guitar World in 1996. "We had 200 people on payroll and all these corporate partners." The first cracks appeared in their innovative business structure. When the touring company scheduled additional concerts generating $1.2 million in revenue, the recording corporation's contract penalties for delayed studio time erased $800,000 of that profit. A simple decision like changing a tour date now required approval from 4 different company boards, triggering cascading 6-figure penalty clauses across their interlocking contracts. Legal disputes between their different corporations cost an estimated $2.3 million in 1994 alone. Their corporate overhead had grown to $8 million annually just to maintain the empire's infrastructure. Even their successful Disney partnership highlighted their challenges. the rock and roller coaster attracted 50,000 riders daily, generating $37.5 million annually, with $5 million flowing directly to the band. But it also meant Aerosmith's image had to stay family-friendly. At one 1996 meeting, Tyler reportedly erupted, "I don't give a f*** about Disney. I'm an artist, not a cartoon character." The pressure affected the band's creative process. "We had 20 people analyzing every note," Steven Tyler recalled. "Sometimes I couldn't remember if we were making an album or running a corporation." By 1996, the band faced a difficult choice: continue with the business structure that made them huge, or sacrifice some profit for sanity. But even their problems reflected their success. Their merchandise division alone earned more than most bands' total income. They'd built such a strong business foundation that even internal conflicts couldn't truly threaten their empire. By 2000, every detail of Aerosmith's business revolution could be measured in dollars and cents. Since 1985, their empire had amassed over $400 million in tour revenue, $250 million in album sales, and $150 million from merchandise. Licensing deals brought in another $75 million, while publishing rights added $50 million more. The Disney partnership alone generated $25 million, and that was just the beginning. But their true legacy wasn't just in the money they made, it was in how they made it. Before Aerosmith, rock bands had one business model: sell records, tour, repeat. After Aerosmith, the playbook changed completely. Their multi-corporation structure became the industry standard, protecting different revenue streams from each other's risks. Their brand partnerships extended far beyond traditional music merchandise. They pioneered creative control paired with profit participation. Theme park attractions generated passive income even when they weren't performing. Their video budgets, which often exceeded album costs, transformed how bands approached visual media. The numbers told the story of their influence. By 1999, major rock bands across the industry had adopted their corporate structure. Theme park attractions became a new revenue stream for veteran acts. Their contract model became the template for bands renegotiating with labels. The concert industry changed its practices to embrace multi-revenue stream shows. Even their failed experiments, like their branded clothing line, became case studies in brand extension. Their impact extended beyond rock music. When hip-hop artists like Jay-Z started building business empires in the late 1990s, they studied Aerosmith's model. The band that once made pennies per album had created the template for modern music entrepreneurship. The final irony? While other legendary bands from their era lost fortunes or faded away, Aerosmith built a self-sustaining business machine. Their Disney attraction generates $5 million annually without them lifting a finger. Their catalog earns more from licensing than it did from original sales. They turned their brand into an asset worth more than their music. By 2000, the numbers were staggering. Their corporate divisions generated over $100 million annually in pure profit. The Disney attraction brought in $5 million a year from a single location. Their music publishing earned more from licensing than their first 6 albums had earned in total sales. A Harvard Business School study estimated that Aerosmith's business model had been adopted by over 70% of established acts by 1999, collectively generating an additional $4.3 billion in revenue that wouldn't have existed under the traditional recording industry model. This wasn't just a band that got rich. This was a business revolution that changed how the music industry operated. As Steven Tyler reflected in 1999, everyone thought getting clean saved Aerosmith. But really, learning to think like businessmen saved us. The drugs nearly killed us, but bad business would have buried us for good.